Sandy Says Read. Welcome back to the channel. Tonight we are going to do book 3 in our 3-part series about The Word and the Void by Terry Brooks. And have I done the glare on this every single time? You guys. Okay, so The Word and the Void by Terry Brooks. Tonight we're going to be discussing Angel Fire East, the last book in the trilogy. Let me read the little blurb for you real quick. Angel Fire East. 10 years later, Ross returns to Hopewell. Christmas is drawing near, but neither Ross nor Nest feels merry, for they face one of the oldest and most ruthless demons of the void. Plagued by nightmares, Ross must capture and protect a creature whose evanescent magic will decide the ages-old war between Word and Void, all before Christmas, when the creature will vanish, and with it, the world's last hope. Right? Deep. Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, so here are the specs. Angel Fire East was published in 1999. In this particular version, the story is from pages 485 to 711. The story takes place over Christmas, as the blurb just mentioned. Now, these 3 books that we've been talking about the last 3 days, they have each been modern day stories, right? I mean, Terry Brooks writes fantasy, epic fantasy, right? But he also writes urban fantasy. And he has stated that he enjoys writing urban fantasy because it lets him delve into some more modern topics, right? During his interview at Imaginarium this summer, he spoke about writing truth. We need some more truth, right? And so he spoke about writing truth, and in urban fantasy he is able to do that. In the book Running with the Demon, the truth, the urban fantasy theme was dealing with the steel mills strike. I don't know how I wanted to say that, but the union workers going on strike at the steel mill. In the second book, A Night of the Word, he was dealing with a very realistic problem of homelessness, and he set that in Seattle to talk about it. In this book, Angel Fire East, there is a theme of addiction running through this story. There is the very real example of a young lady who returns to Hopewell and her very real addiction and her fight against drug use. This young lady, I mean, it's heartbreaking to see the addiction she fights with and struggles with. And it's infuriating to see the demon who just picks at her and pushes her and encourages her to go back to using drugs. It's so well done. Terry Brooks did an awesome job with it because you just absolutely hate the demon who's pushing at this young lady. But there's another addiction I saw in this book with the police officer, Larry Spencer. He had this sort of addiction, not necessarily to like power, but to manipulating Nest into being his friend, being his children's friend, being more to him and to his family than Nest wants to be. And I saw that as almost an addiction that he had toward pressing her, okay? Then there was also an addiction that Nest has. Yes, our main character, Nest Freemark. She had this addiction to this extra magic that she has within her. Throughout all of the books, she has her own magical abilities. Great, wonderful. But then, she has that extra magic, that duality that we talked about in yesterday's video. She's got that extra magical power that's in there that she's tried to suppress and harness and keep held down. And it's almost like an addiction to her to keep that thing reined in. And in fact, in this book, we learned that over the last 10 years, Nest really, she really grew in her running sport. She's a very good runner, and she went to the Olympics, and she did well in her sport. And she has been a competitive runner, and she's done very well with it. But in one of those races, she felt threatened, and that not so great magic that she had within her, the magic that she doesn't think is so great, it tried to get out of her, and it was coming out of her, and it was coming free, right? And she had to like pull it back, and she feared that. And so she stopped competitive racing. She stopped cold turkey because she didn't want that extra magic to come out of her. She didn't want that. She didn't want to be responsible for it escaping. Okay, so I saw that as sort of an addiction too, and she does deal with it in this book. Her character arc brings her to a point where she does deal with that, and by dealing with that, she's able to help John Ross save the world. Really, I mean, it's amazing. It's great. Terry Brooks did an awesome job once again with this story. Okay, so let's talk about the story a bit here. What's happening is over the Christmas holidays, John Ross returns to Hopewell, as the blurb told us, but he comes back with this magic-filled creature. It's called a gypsy morph. It's this entity that he has captured. He was told to capture it. He had a prophetic dream that is just frightening, scary, awful. This prophetic dream, he sees himself crucified, killed, because he was unable to work with this gypsy morph the way he was supposed to. I mean, he has this dream in which he failed. Yeah, and it's not good. So he wants to fix that. He wants to not fail, right? Obviously. So he's got the gypsy morph. He brings it to Hopewell. He's there with Nest, and he's hoping that Nest can help him get this gypsy morph to save the world. Basically, is what's going to happen here. I don't want to say too much. I don't want to say all the things that happen because I don't want to spoil everything for you because I want you to read it. Obviously, I mean, that's what I've been saying all 3 of these videos. I want you guys to read this stuff because it's just so good. Okay, so let's see. There were a couple of things I want to read for you out of this. Let's look at page 525. All right, what's on 525? Hold, please. 525. Oh, yeah, okay. Terry is just saying, a demon could persuade violent men of anything, and Findo Gask had no trouble with these. Findo Gask is our big bad demon. He is the one that he's evil incarnate, right? He has no concern about anyone else. He wants to just add people's names to his book. He's got a book where he lists the people he has destroyed. That's what he wants to do. He wants to just destroy people. And it is his greatest desire here to destroy John Ross, because John Ross is a knight of the word, and he would like to destroy him. And then he learns that, there's this gypsy morph involved. He would like to get that gypsy morph, and he would like to manipulate it to work for the void and not for the word. He wants to destroy the world, right? As demons do. He has a couple of other demons assisting him, 3, in fact, assisting him there in Hopewell to do damage and to harm others and to be bad. And they're working on different people. It's not good. It's not good. So the next item I want to read for you is on page 657, and this deals with a young lady named Bennett. And you might recognize that name because in book 1, Bennett Scott was a little kid. She was a little girl who went walking one night near some cliffs, and the feeders, if you remember the denizens of evil, these little feeders were trying to push her and encourage her to go over the cliff. They wanted to feed off of her death and her fear, right? Bennett returns to Hopewell, and she's an addict, and she's got drug problems, and she wants to get clean. She wants to get sober for her child. I mean, she's trying, but there's this demon named Penny who is just pushing at her and picking at her and encouraging her to use again. And it's just this constant picking at her, right? I mean, it's annoying. It's awful. It's infuriating. I mean, I don't know how many times I wanted to reach into the book and just take Penny and just flip her little head off, right? Just obnoxious. Terry did an awesome job of making Penny despicable. Anyway, so Bennett dies. Spoiler, Bennett dies. And the way she dies is Penny and Findo Gask, they do get her to use again. And they take her to the cliffs where she was in the beginning of the first story. And they get her to go over the edge. And she dies. And Nest has to deal with this. And so on page 657, it says, "It made Nest wonder if the manner of Bennett's death was in some way predetermined, if saving her from the cliffs the first time had only forestalled the inevitable." And I found that depressing. I found that just heartbreaking. I'm trying not to be emotional talking about it here on film, but I found that just heartbreaking because, well, first of all, Bennett, she was trying, and she was trying to get clean. She was trying to stay sober, and these demons prevented that. They wouldn't let her, and she died because of it. But what I found interesting was that Terry took her story full circle, took her back to that place where we first saw her, but he let Nest wonder if it was predetermined. And nothing else in these stories is predetermined. Nothing else in these stories remains predetermined. These prophetic dreams that John Ross has, they're prophetic, but John has the opportunity to change them. The idea that Nest could have been big bad evil in book 1 if she had made the wrong decisions, well, she doesn't end up big bad evil because she makes the right decisions. She had the opportunity. She had free will. These characters, they get to have free will. Terry gives them free will. They get to make decisions. It's not predetermined. Nothing is predetermined. So for Nest to think that Bennett's death was predetermined struck me, and it struck me as odd, and it made me wonder if the drugs took away her free will. I mean, was Terry Brooks saying that because of the drugs, because of that horrible negative thing, because of the demons pushing the drugs on her, that took away her free will, and therefore her predetermined death did have to happen? And maybe that's too deep, but I think that's what was going on. All right, so I'm not going to tell you the ending of the story. You have to read it for yourself because it's so cool. It's so good. We have these, well, there are 4 demons, right? Because there's Findo Gask and then the 3 he has working for him. And there are these extra characters who are being manipulated. And then we've got John and Nest. We've got the Gypsy Morph who's just kind of along for the ride. We've got all these characters who are like coming together there at that big climactic moment, and it's awesome. It's great. As I have mentioned before, Terry Brooks is a master storyteller. So we've got this big climactic moment that comes together, and you're like, oh my gosh, that. And Nest has to deal with her addiction, that addiction she has to keeping that extra magic power buried and down inside. She has to realize, oh wait, I should let that go. And because of that, things come together. It works out. It's wonderful. I love that Terry lets her have agency in each one of these books. I love that Terry, lets her be the main character, but John Ross is also a main character. And John Ross, yeah, he's a knight of the word, and he gets his reward, but it's a little bit heartbreaking too. It's wonderful. It's lovely. I recommend it. You guys, thumbs up for Terry Brooks and The Word in the Void. It's awesome. Thank you for following along with kind of my rambling, right? But I enjoyed the stories. They were wonderful, and I hope that you guys will read them. The Word in the Void by Terry Brooks. All 3 books are wonderful. All 3 of them. Please click the bell notification icon so that you are notified each time I do random things on this channel. Because usually it's book reviews. And usually I love the books. Thanks for tuning in.